Here it is for you guys. Enjoy.
Welcome to We the Thunder. That is Thomas Scully. He went from the bush to the spear in
Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas! Viva!
I won't stop now. I was gonna give Thomas Scully some PTO, but he's that dedicated to We the Thunder and the Tampa Bay Lightning that he is logged in from Las Vegas. You will notice that usually when I go out of town, I'm just out of the week. That's my dedication to this show. But we're glad you're here. We're going to talk about how Steven Stamkos plays his best when you're not here, for sure. But we've got to bring on a special guest, no stranger to the mean streets of We the Thunder, Amalie Arena, Channelside, Water Streets, whatever we have downtown these days. We know him as the Stache. He is back on We the Thunder. Welcome back. We have almost an entire season of hockey to talk about, so we should probably warn people. You're back. This episode's going to be about 3.5 hours. Got the whole season to cover, but we'll go one game at a time, I think.
Do it.
But first, I'll ask you, how's it going? What you been up to?
Oh man, being a keyboard warrior and enjoying it this season. To be honest with you, just been hanging back, working on some of my personal business stuff, and getting ready for the playoffs. Feeling good. I'm loving where the Lightning are. I was absolutely waiting for the trade deadline, and when Duclair was coming to town, I said that's the guy we needed. We've been missing that top 6 guy, and lo and behold, I think not only was I right, a lot of people were right about that, and it's been great watching hockey since then, hasn't it, boys?
It's been a fun last couple months. I guess last month of hockey that we've watched since March. The team has been on fire. Corey, coming out the gates in the chat. We want to hear you if you're in the chat today because, there's not that much to talk about. We clinched the playoff spot, by the way. I don't know if you heard. Clinched playoffs. We're in since the last show. Will Kuchar hit 100 assists. Kucherov sits at 96, which means he's probably going to hit it tomorrow.
There is no way they don't try to get it for him. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. It was driving me nuts last night when they kept trying to feed Stamkos for that hat trick goal during the power play. They always do that. They can't not do it when they could have easily probably popped one over to Kuchar or Point to pop in. But
yeah, but you don't want Kuchar to score it. You want him the assist.
Yeah. Well, we want all the points from Kuchar. He's gotta stay in the lead, which, by the way, we'll do it early today. Kuch is your points leader. Here he is. Yes, I do sleep with my Nikita Kucherov plaque every night, and I will continue to do that until he wins the Hart Trophy, whether it's this year or whether it's in 2 years.
The Hart Ross, as I've started calling it, the Hart Ross is what he should win this year.
I think he should win it all. Scoring title, the Hart Trophy. It sounds like he's got an uphill battle. If you listen to Paul miss the net, he's not in the running.
Nasty
for MVP. I don't know why that guy.
Well, the last thing we needed was McJesus to get on the fucking heater and make it a 3-way race. You know what I mean? That's the last thing we needed.
But then you listen to Subban, and Subban said Kuch is the clear-cut favorite to win it.
Please don't remind me. Please. That's how we're going to start. Thomas, you reminding me that I agree with fucking PK Subban out the gate. That's why we're going to start this reunion.
Listen, it's very rare Subban talks.
And I don't open my mouth.
Stuff. So, and he is not usually the Captain Obvious, but he's got to be Captain Obvious on that one because there could be no other MVP. If every tweet that you see coming out is how many points differential Kuch is from any other player on the team, how many more goals he is from anybody on the team, that should tell you something. So there's no other player that they keep putting this over and over and over on Twitter. You cannot go one day without seeing some kind of statistic of how many points Cooch has compared to the second most on the Tampa Bay Lightning. And there's a reason why he deserves the MVP. And that's it.
And the crazy thing is that because it's so many assists that sure, now with Stamkos and Point are on heaters, but Cooch is one assisting on most of those goals. So he's still maintaining his gap between, first and second, third, fourth,
Well, and it's going to get completely overlooked how much he carried the team for the first several months of the season.
He still
is.
He's still 50% of all goals scored. He is involved in 50% still of all goals scored on this team.
He still is, but if he wasn't playing, if he was missing extended time in the first 3 or 4 months of the season, we'd still be fighting for that playoff spot, which we're on lockdown now. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be the conversation. That's pretty much why I'm watching these games, to see what happens with Cooch. Another 3 points last night, 4 away from 100 assists. I believe he would be the first winger ever to get 100 assists. By the way, McDavid is at 99 right now. He's a center, though. All the centers have done it. What's it? Lemieux and Gretzky, I think.
Lemieux, Gretzky, and I guess just those two guys, and him before.
Doesn't happen.
He's already done it once before.
I think that Brandon Hagel had the best quote of the week, saying, "I just hit 200 points. Cooch did it, almost hit 200 points this season. That's ridiculous."
Yeah, he's 12 games without a point, 24 3-point games.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that's
wild. Like other teams are like honed in on them, and that'll be really interesting to see in the playoffs, because in the playoffs they really start to lock down. They're going to dedicate a line just to cover that Lightning first line. And, that's the good news about Stamkos really heating up. And Cirelli, we're going to talk about Cirelli too, heating up, having his best season ever, quietly.
Still not a $6.5 million season, but sure, best season so far, yeah.
But yeah, these guys heating up is going to be huge, because if they can somehow contain Point and Cooch and whoever they stick on that first line with them, it's really got to be the depth of this team that steps up in these playoff series. We see it all the time where, our stars go quiet in some of these playoff series, and it's like, all right, we need you guys. And when we have won the cups, that's who comes out and that's who performs in these playoff series. So
yeah, which is a great lead into Nick Paul, Matthew Roscoe right there in the comments on cue, the apostle Nick Paul, already in full playoff regalia. If you look at his lettuce and his beard, that guy started playoff mode like 2 months ago, right? And I think that's what we're seeing. That third line is, I think, the unlikely byproduct of getting the top 6 locked in with Duclair coming in, because that third line has been absolutely dynamic when it comes to the forecheck, when it comes to being able also for depth scoring. Easymont and Paul both have been putting points on the board, biscuits in the basket.
Yeah, they had a great game in Montreal. Easymont had a beautiful goal where he just streaked in right across the goal mouth, and then Paul had the 2 points, and he had 2 in Montreal. I think he had 1 in Toronto. That dude loves playing in Canada. Something about Nick Paul scoring goals in Canada.
He loves going home. That boy loves going home.
So yeah, they need guys like him to start stepping up, and now they are. The team's all going in the right direction, just in time. So got a couple games left. I want to hear like how we went to a couple games together, and so I kind of got your take on the season throughout. But it's been kind of a rocky season, and the Lightning really didn't turn it on until March. We didn't know. We got a watch party April 13th, by the way. It's going to be at this place, Cigar City, High Life, the official craft brew of the Lightning. Let's crack that sucker open.
I'm always on brand. Come on. Right here. Boom.
Diet Coke is not sponsoring.
Not on brand.
But you can do Diet Coke there, I believe. But yeah, anyway, come join us Saturday. We thought like this game would probably mean something when we were scheduling these still. But But no, we are clinched. So if you want to come have some fun with us and watch the team, we can maybe a little more social activity than watching the game. But we will have sound. If you were at the first one, we got that fixed for the second one. I just have to bring my own speaker. BYOS. But yeah, what were your thoughts throughout the season as this team just couldn't kind of get over that hurdle from being a okay team to a team that looked like they're good? Because my thoughts throughout the season were like, yeah, we're gonna make the playoffs. But before that trade deadline, I was like, we're gonna make the playoffs, but I don't know what we're gonna do in the playoffs. And now obviously things have changed. But what were your thoughts throughout the season as things progressed?
I mean, I don't think I was alone in being a little bit nervous, but I think for me, I was always looking towards kind of this time at like the trade deadline type of season or a part of the season and see what's going to happen. I don't know how many people will really pay attention to the bullshit I was slinging on, the keyboard and everything, but I was absolutely ready for Anthony Cirelli to go at the deadline this year. We're sitting here watching Brandon Hagel have the season that he's having, playing in the top 6. And he's making $1.5 million this year, which I know is a sweetheart deal, but he'll be making $6.5 million next year, the same amount as Anthony Cirelli is this year. And I'm sorry, side by side, it's clear which guy is having the better year, the more impact, who's making the money that, on the prove it contract. So
we're told that Cirelli was on the trade block, just they could not pull anything. So I mean, right. The Lightning was all in on trying to get rid of him.
He was the only unprotected asset they really had is the other thing, and I think the reason why there weren't a lot of takers is, again, going back to people have been all about the Jeannot trade all season, right? That's all I've heard about is JBB's worst trade, blah, blah, blah. Let's go back to the fact that they were coming off of a 3 Stanley Cup final runs. Who's going to help JBB do anything? Every move he's made since he's became a GM has basically made the other team look like a bunch of fucking idiots, right? So who's trying to do JBB any favors right now? Who? Nobody. So who's going to go and take Cirelli at a $6.5 million deal when he's 28 and still hasn't broken the 20 goal plateau, barely is getting 40 points, and since 4 years ago hasn't even been in the top 10 in the Selke voting, right? So that's where I was coming into the trade deadline. This guy, I love him. But this is where we were at. We had Stamkos to worry about next year as well. We got to figure out how to deal with him. That guy can't go anywhere, and he's only proving it more and more as we come into the off season or the postseason. But yeah, that's kind of where I was. Also, I'm like, we needed that middle or top 6 guy to step up, and we needed some depth there. And I figured his money could bring in at least 2 depth guys or somebody that could solidify the top 6, and then maybe a third liner, right? Well, the blessing in disguise, I think we all know, which was a terrible blessing in disguise. Anybody that has watched this program knows I feel Sergachev's pain when I saw that play happen and when he goes down, and it's the exact same fracture I had in my left ankle, right? But
were you skating again within 2-3 months?
I had started a business at that point. It's when I started my mobile detailing business, and I was back up in about 2.5 months, and I was working in 2.5 months, but I wasn't skating and doing that shit. But I, of course, was a professional athlete with some of the best training staff in the world, right? So, but that was the blessing in disguise we needed, and I was just hanging on. I think like a lot of us, I was just kind of hanging on, hoping that something would catch fire or the Vasilevsky would kind of find his groove. And luckily, I just kept counting our blessings that the rest of the East wasn't like the last couple seasons where 100 points to make it, right? Because if the rest of the East had played up to their potential this season, we would not be sitting here talking about the playoffs right now. We would be talking about wild card 2, hoping that we were going to make the playoffs, even still right now, right?
Yeah, so I agree. I think the powers have shifted. I think the West is the stronger conference this year.
Absolutely, this season. So that was a little bit of a hope too. So that was, sadly the business, GM part of my fandom went into gear right away as soon as Sergachev goes down. I know that's a season-ending injury, and who's out there. I was kind of surprised they didn't go after at one of the other forwards, but whenever some of those guys started going, it was like, well, we don't have a lot of assets to deal. We didn't have a lot of things to move around with. And it was as soon as that Duclair move was announced to me, it was like, dude, absolutely. That is the exact kind of guy for the exact kind of money. And, you know, depending on what happens next year with Stamkos and a couple other things, there's a good chance he could re-sign here, you know? So that to me was like, okay, we did that, brought in Dumba, and then that, you know, now, like you said, Shooter, I was very trepidatious about making the playoffs. You know, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't want another one and done, because the last thing we need to hear is that, oh, the Lightning dynasty and we're done and the window's closed, especially from our own fan base, right? But now I'm jacked, bro. I'm pumped.
Did you think that
Absolutely pumped.
Duclair and Dumba, did you think that was going to just turn things around, or should we say flip the switch, as we said in the past? Because it kind of did. Flip the
Turn
switch.
up now. I don't think I can't sit here and be like, oh, I thought this was exactly what was going to happen, but I definitely thought he was going to be a better version of Killorn, and I thought that's what this team was missing, was that guy to play with Stammer and Cirelli, and be that power forward that, you know, has a little more grit to their game and has, you know, a little bit better scoring capability than Cirelli to solidify that top six. And when he came in and he slotted those first couple games and started scoring with those guys right away, I was like, yes, I did feel like a genius a little bit. So I was like, this is exactly what I thought we needed. And then when he got moved up to the top line, and then they moved Hagel to that second line, I'm like, oh, this is even better, because
When they got
Hagel and Cirelli are absolutely the chemistry that they need to be that forechecking second line, but still dynamic offensively enough to score. And Stamkos is showing that he's now scoring 5-on-5 goals, not just power play goals, now that line got put together.
when they traded for Duclair, you weren't like the rest of the internet and said, no, we need a defenseman.
No, because if you go back, and I don't want to, like, I wasn't going to come in here and like pat myself in the back, screenshot, because I could go back and get my comments, but I've been saying since November that it wasn't the blue line that was the urge with the defense. It was the middle six, and it was the lack of consistency in the forwards. All five guys play defense in the NHL. Seems that people forget that only the blue line play defense. For this team isn't. No, it was because the forwards didn't know each other. There was no gel there. They weren't playing the same lines. Nobody knew who was covering who. They weren't playing gritty enough in the neutral zone. The forwards weren't. And to me, it just kept going to be that top six, losing Killorn, that kind of guy who solidified your top six, who was a great on the forecheck. No, I mean, sure, I'm a huge fan, and I'm not trying to be like,
I was like, wait, it took 19 minutes.
It's not the end all be all of it, but I'm just saying, to lose a guy like him and not replace him with anybody else that played his style of game. That's what I was talking about. Like, it's not, you know, him specifically. It's just they didn't have another big power forward to put up there in the top six that was doing his thing. And at first we thought, oh, here comes ABB finally, right, on the top on that top line. And nope, he fizzled out so quickly that just really became the issue. And I really did think whenever they went and got Duclair, I was like, okay, this is what they needed, because it solidifies the top six, give them a chance to find their third line. And then that fourth line, it's still grindy. It's still grimy. It still has the ability. Glenn Denning, that guy, you know, I mean, you've got now 4 really solid centers that are all scoring and have the ability to score goals, right? So that it was, to me, it was the middle six that was really the problem I felt with the defense, and the lack of depth, like the lack of solid lines that was really affecting defense more than the blue line.
Here's what I love most about the Duclair trade was, before that, all the groups, Thunderbolts, Thunder Nation, Lightning Strikes, any of them, every single day it was someone else to blame every single game. Mm-hmm. You don't see that anymore. You don't see that. And it was funny how we were rotating on all these young guys, all these guys, first games, second games, third games, and stuff like that. And it was never any bad on them. But then Duclair comes in, and like we've said, he slots everybody where they should be. because nobody's having to cover and switch lines up. And here's Duclair who does that. Then you throw in Dumba, who is a veteran defenseman, really hasn't really shown. He's shown why we got him so cheap. Is what he
he's
is.
been rough. I don't know if I love that pairing with Lilleberg. I was talking about it last night. Those two are too aggressive together. Like you got to have one stay at home and then one guy that can be a little bit more aggressive. Those guys both have the same mindset of super aggressive. You know, they hit, they go up offensively and try to score. Yeah. But that's kind of where they're at right now. Like that's the third line.
And I was watching the block party today. They had Duclair and Dumba. And Dumba was talking about coming from Arizona and how like they were started off hot and playing well. And then suddenly they went on a 13-game losing streak. And so to me, the things I've seen from him, it seems to me like he's coming as a guy that had to be like the number one and overplay and cover mistakes and like kind of play a little bit out of position and be more aggressive because he was like one of the
he was coming from 26 minutes a game.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. And so I've seen a couple of plays where there's one in particular 2-3 games ago. I don't remember who it was against, but he was coming back on the play and he went in and played close to the boards instead of keeping him on the boards, and he let the guy get behind him and came out and it ended up being a goal. And to me, I feel like that's just him not quite knowing the team yet and not quite knowing exactly where he needed to play that and where his help was going to come from and the style of the play of the team, right? And so I've seen a couple of plays like that from him where he kind of gets a little bit out of position for the team versus where I could see how he was playing that way in Arizona to cover up for other people maybe, you know? So
yeah, I wanted to check because that's what I kind of said when we traded for him. I was like, you know, it might be a good change of pace for him here, you know, not having to play those 20 minutes a night. So, but I wanted to check these last 5 games. It's all over the map. 19 minutes, 13 minutes, 20, 15, 17. So he's getting a decent amount of minutes. Now, I also think the Lightning are playing those guys a little bit more in Hedman. It seems like a little less with Radish. Maybe just give him a little bit of a break here. But yeah, I mean, he's still playing a decent amount of minutes, but not overly impressing anyone, I think, yet. But it is solid to have him with that experience back there for this playoff run, because as great as Crozier played and some of these younger guys, and Crozier is going to be scratched for playoffs and hopefully gets in a couple games, and I think he did play well throughout the season. But have a guy that's, you know, got as many games, 670 career games in the NHL, to be out there as bad as his drop off has kind of been. It's good for the Lightning to have on the third line. Do you guys think JBB's not getting enough credit for, you know, going back to Mike's comment here, Glendening and Mott coming in as free agents and, you know, really being that solid fourth line, and then bringing in these two guys on trade that obviously had changed the trajectory of the team? Like, I feel like JBB, and, you know, I saw a couple people talking about John Cooper, you know, maybe getting some votes for Coach of the Year finally. But do you think JBB's not getting enough credit for rebuilding this team? I mean, we're not in a rebuild, but retooling this team to be in the position where they're at.
Oh, of course not. No. And like I said, I mean, all anybody's talked about all season long is Tanner Jeannot trade. The one trade, which still hasn't panned out, and which
he's been injured.
I will die on the hill that people overvalue draft picks in the NHL way too much, especially on that hill in Tampa Bay. When we see what they do with deep value picks and finding guys in free agency and everything that's happened since JBB has taken over, I don't give a shit about draft picks. I really don't. And especially you look and suddenly, we don't have any prospects. Well, you know what? For a team that didn't have any prospects, all these guys that had to come up and fill in through injuries and all this stuff played pretty damn good this year. As far as
and by the way, the Cruncher in the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. And right. So for not having any prospects, we're looking pretty good with all these young guys that are coming up. So, I mean, sure, that Sherry deal looks bad, but on paper, it's still only $2 million. Okay. And you thought maybe he would be the guy that could slot in that top 6 because you saw him play in Pittsburgh with top guys and be fairly productive. All right. He also is a guy that had some injuries and has had some problems with that being consistent, being able to fit in. All right. But overall, we're going to sit here and cherry pick 1 or 2 moves out of how many the JBB has made in the last 7 years, right? No, one more than that. 8 years.
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember how long since Eisman left us in the overnight, but
I think Jeannot's still tough to gauge because, he came here, got injured that first, half season or whatever, 20 games, whatever he was here for. And then this season had a was out for a while too with injury. So I'm excited to see him play in the playoffs. I think tomorrow he's definitely going to get in a fight if you're, planning on going to the game or
but see, I'd like for him to step out of that role, and I know Waddy isn't as effective instead of putting him in the lineup, but put him in the 4th line. If you really feel like you got to go out there and chuck some knucks and there's some guy you got to stand up to and send a message to, let Waddy go do that, right? And let Tanner stay on that 3rd line. Don't put him in the box for 5 minutes. Like, I don't want to see him in the tough guy role because I want to see him throwing hits and I want to see him playing hard hockey, but I don't want to see him fighting. I want to see him fighting anymore because
nobody wants to fight him except for Ryan Reeves.
Well,
last week.
I don't even want to get into it, but
so I want to say why I think JBB deserves, but real quick, on Orozco's thing here, I think they have to sign him. I think they would be stupid if they do not sign Dylan Duke from the University of Michigan that they drafted. Yes. They got to get him under a contract soon. But think of JBB, how this season started. Something that doesn't get it brought up much with Mott was, remember, Mott wasn't here. It was Archibald that was here. So you get told Vassey's injured and will not play during training camp. Right before training camp, you get told Archibald's, you know what, I'm deciding I don't want to play. My heart's not in it anymore. The same exact day that happened, you signed Mott. They literally announced Archibald's not here, and then here's Mott. So there is so much that JBB has done with this team, with Duclair, with Dumba. I mean, Hannafin was all but living in Amalie. You thought,
oh, it'd be so good if we had him here, though. Oh,
yeah,
so nice.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I still think this combination of the 2 we got was probably better than if Hannafin would have been here. Because I just think Duclair was that missing piece for those forwards to be able to slot in, and you've seen what it's done. And he's going to be if he's not the GM of the year this year, he will be next year because he'll be re-signing Steven Stamkos to another contract.
I think he's earned it the last 6 games.
Yeah.
He scored goals, I believe, in the last 6, and obviously the big old hat trick last night because Thomas Gooley was out of town.
Yep, that's it, right.
Who's your biggest surprise this year, Stache, on the Lightning roster? I know.
I mean, that's kind of a tough one. I would have to say, I mean, the obvious one would be Lillibert because he came out of nowhere, right, as the rookie, and no one really had eyes on him.
We weren't talking about him in the preseason.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, Glenn Denning, I think, kind of, but really Radish. Radish, to me, has been the biggest surprise because he's the other unsung hero of this team being in the playoffs. Because sure, I do think the forward depth was the biggest problem with the defense, but that's not to say that the blue line wasn't and hasn't and isn't still somewhat thin, right?
Yeah.
So
and you had Radish, and you had Perbix last season that basically got their shot, and you've seen Perbix kind of regress a little bit, and Radish kind of step up and become a better player. Radish's
shot. I mean, you haven't seen where did that come from? I mean, that wasn't seen, and then all of a sudden, here comes those guys that measure the speed, and he has the fastest speed for the Tampa Bay Lightning, and then he hears that stuff and then just starts darting it at the net for the next 2 weeks, and he gets a couple to go in, and it's like, yeah, those were fast.
Yep. Always seems like it's a pretty timely goal too. A couple playoff winners, or not playoff, overtime.
Yeah. Well, and then you see, Orozco, Matt in the chat says Nick Paul. I think that's another guy that I'm not surprised by him. And that's you want to sit here and talk about, okay, well, we call out craziness. Well, how about that deal? How about that amazing deal that JBB made, picking Nick Paul out of obscurity in Ottawa and bringing him down here? And
what did we give up for Nick Paul?
Diddly fucking
squat.
squat.
No, we gave him Matty Joe.
Matty Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Diddly squat, dude. A guy that had opportunity after opportunity and couldn't really cement himself in this lineup the way that Nick Paul has. Right?
But he's done pretty well in Ottawa. I mean, we traded a good player for a good player. I think both of them underachieved. We did give up a 4th round pick too, but that's really nothing.
Draft picks. Again, I don't care. Because guess what? Right now, Nick Paul is producing. And he's still another 25, right?
Were you at I've seen you at some of the block parties. Were you at the block party with Nick Paul, Stache?
That's the one that I missed.
My question got asked there, and it was, how does he feel having to step into that Alex Killorn role? Does he feel pressure knowing that Killorn had it for so many years, and now he's that person on the power play? He's that one that has to camp in front of the net. You see him almost in the exact same spot as Killorn did for so many years. And he said that he doesn't feel the pressure. He just felt like he's trying to do what Killorn taught him. He said he was taught by Killorn, and he could never thank him enough for what he's done, and that he gave him the ability to be able to slide it into that spot and play that spot. So when he's playing that, it's more of a homage to Killorn, because that's significant with this team for so long was Killorn where he's at now.
Well, and honestly, I'm not, again, he's finally starting to come along. Still don't think he's earning his money, but I'm like, Cirelli had his shot there, right? But I do think part of that goes back to John Cooper is absolutely in love, in madly passionate love with Nick Paul, or with Anthony Cirelli and Brandon Hagel being on the ice together. And
they're buddies too.
On the
something about that buddy chemistry
on the PP, the PK,
they're
the
so
third
good
line,
the PK. And they're really our second line on the PK. By the way, our PK is number 1 since March.
Yeah. So here's the thing, which that's the other thing that I don't think enough people are talking about in this league right now, going into the playoffs, is that we're the only team that's top 5 in both power play and penalty kill right now in the NHL.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, they hold that against us for some reason. It's like, we're really good on special teams. Oh, it's like special teams doesn't matter in these games, especially in the playoffs, right?
Well, hey, and listen, times have changed, right? Even in the span of how long we've been doing the show, right? When we started the show, I guess, 4 years now. There was the commentary of, power plays, special teams wasn't a big of a deal in the playoffs because they didn't call as many power plays. They didn't call as many penalties. That's not the case anymore. They're calling penalties. Their power play matters in the postseason now. It's a big deal. Special teams is a big deal in the postseason now. And that's another thing why I think that this team, as we're starting to see the last week or two, more and more people are saying this is the team nobody wants to play in the playoffs.
Well, and we talk about penalties in the playoffs. You're going to sit there. The coaches are going to be like, Tampa's got that power play. Don't commit the penalty. Stop, and that's why when you say they don't get called, it's going to be that people need to not commit those penalties against Tampa.
Which then gives them space to make the plays. So it's going to be pick your poison, because we've seen now 5-on-5, this team has now gotten better, because it wasn't just Kucherov, it was the power play that really helped carry that team through the first 2/3 of the season as well, right? If it wasn't for the power play basically being number one all season long, there's a good chance that they're not in the position they are also, right? Which, of course, that has to do with Kucherov because he runs the damn power play. But
which people are discounting him for.
And he plays on both, which also he plays both power plays. Does anybody talk about that? That he plays both power play units? He doesn't come off the ice during a power play, period. He doesn't. He's on the ice the entire power play.
Unless Coop drags him off. You can see if you go to the game, look when they go and switch, you can see
he looks away.
He starts going towards the bench and then he just turns around.
Didn't see a coach. Didn't see a coach. My bad.
He pretends he's going to the bench and then just completely does a 360 and goes back.
McKinnon isn't out there double shifting on power plays. Okay, he's not. McKinnon isn't out there playing. I'm sorry, people discount Kucherov's 200-foot game too as well. That guy in the neutral zone.
Well, remember who made that
so much?
Who made that famous by playing the whole power play? Ovi.
Well, for different reasons.
Right.
For stammer reasons. But I had somebody, I was saying the other day on Facebook, which, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't know if you have the graphic that has all of them, Shooter, but of all of the NHL PA awards, we had 3 players on that list. Mm-hmm. No other team had more than one, although Makar did win 2 awards individually. So I guess you could say Colorado had 2 winners, but it was one guy. But we had 3 players on that list.
Yeah, you have Kuch, who's up there now, best playmaker. Mm-hmm. This is voted by the actual players. Mm-hmm. In a must-win game, which goalie do you want on your team?
Landslide.
Vasi, and then was
the landslide.
Other one was Hedman, as which player is the most challenging to face defensively. So no, we don't win the big awards, but based on players actually voting, you think they know a little bit about this. Our guys are pretty well respected in the league, and I like this one, Thomas. I realized after I grabbed the picture that you posted this earlier. The hat trick last night. We also saw McKinnon get a hat trick later on in the night, and you had the dude from Montreal. So this was the first time that 3 first overall picks had a hat trick in the same day. Crazy day for hat tricks yesterday.
That's crazy. That's crazy in the history of the NHL. That 3 different number 1 draft picks, because you think of how many teams have had several number 1 draft. I think at one time we had 3 or 4 number 1 draft picks on our team all at one time. Yeah. So to think that none have done hat tricks all on the same day is just crazy. And for someone to find that stat out, some of these stats they all of a sudden announce, it's like, who has been waiting for this to happen so that they can finally say, look, right, we finally got this one off the board. The 3 hat tricks by 3 number 1 picks is finally off the board. Now on to the number 2 picks.
Like I made a comment. It was like the only 2 guys to score goals on a Tuesday, both number 3 overall draft picks from a country whose name starts with the vowel.
Yeah,
like that's like how obscure these, like they try and make these stats up to make them meaningful, or like look how meaningful this moment was.
I mean, that's cool. It's cool that and you see almost different generations, and so it's cool seeing that, especially the Montreal kid. So it's cool to see that, but just to have these weird ones.
So I want to ask you guys about
your scores quarterly.
Vasi, injured to beginning of the season, comes back, shows a couple games, a couple great saves that he's still Vasi, but overall not the same Vasi. And then since March, he's posting like a 920% save percentage, 2.3 something goals against average, which is down. He was at 3 at one point, or above 3 at one point. Did we find ourselves with a huge advantage with probably having Vasi fresher than any other goalie going into the playoffs, playing better, especially knowing after last season his comments about, actually admitting he was tired and didn't prepare as well as he should have. Is this a huge advantage for Lightning going to the playoffs, having Bassey, kind of at his peak right now, pretty fresh too, not having to had played 70 games?
I mean, Chris said it in the comments earlier. Duclair and Dumba additions have been game changers, but having a fully healthy Vasi over the last 6 weeks has been the difference. And I agree. We've just seen him get better and better and better. And you nailed it. Like the last 3 weeks, he's been kind of unconscious, and out of nowhere, another 30-win season. Also, by the way,
knock on wood.
But
I think going into the playoffs, this is the first time where we're not seeing multiple people say it seems like someone's injured. It seems like this player's playing hurt. It seems like this. You have this team running on all cylinders at the perfect timing and gelling at the perfect timing. You have what seems to be probably one of the healthiest Stamkoses that you've had in a long time.
And
Hedman, Point. I mean, those playoffs would have been different with Point in there. I'm sorry. A healthy Kucherov, a healthy Vasi, who last year was obviously tired and not doing good. His back was hurting back then. You have a healthy team for the first time that could make a very long run in this playoffs.
And a lot of the other teams that we're potentially going to be up against have some injury problems.
Yeah.
To some pretty good players. So, yeah, they're in a really good position here. Of course, we do have a couple games left to survive before the playoffs. And I was going to say that Ottawa game tomorrow, like Ottawa is just going to fight us. Like if you watch the game against Florida the other day, they were just out to fight. So these guys are going to have to protect themselves tomorrow. It'll be a fun game to go to, by the way, if you're looking to go to the game.
For sure.
By the way, we have a code, SeatGeek.com. WTT Pod is the code. There will be plenty of tickets for the rest of the games. Last night, there was definitely a lot of people that just took the day off that didn't go to the game. There were definitely some open seats. So get out to a game. Use the code. I don't know if you looked up playoff tickets. Some of us have access to playoff tickets already. They did not go down in price.
Inflation.
So
I saw your post. That's now you understand why some of the STMs were like, if we don't get to the playoffs this year, it's all right.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at hosting some watch parties, even local, even home games, some home game watch parties, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just say that. All right.
Yep, and we will be live after every playoff game, all the way to the end until they raise the cup. That is the Thomas Schooley promise. By the way, your background is showing up now, Thomas, but now you've gotten in the way of the sphere.
Sun's going down.
What you want to see? Oh, it's an eyeball right now.
I can see it.
That's cool. That thing's amazing. I can't wait to go to the concert or something there.
I know.
That's creepy. That was creepy.
Not do that again. Go to that. Moving on.
From the bush to the sphere.
I see what you
I'll
did.
tell you what, Vegas fans are usually assholes. But I've been in something Lightning every single day since I've been here for the Little Caesars convention. And I've heard Go Bolts on the street. I've heard Lightning, they're a really good team. Right before we came on, I went downstairs real quick down to the casino, and someone in the elevator was like, Tampa Bay Lightning. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, do you work at Amelie? No, Amelie. And I went, Amelie Arena? No, I don't. He goes, just a fan? I said, yeah, season ticket member. And he's like, nice. He's like, they're looking good this year. I said, they made it to the playoffs. That was the first step. That's all that mattered.
Exactly.
Yeah,
we're in.
Are you staying at the Venetian?
Yes.
Oh, that place is fucking tits, right? I saw you posted that you ate at the Grand Lux. That restaurant, bro, it's like the Cheesecake Factory of Las Vegas, right?
Well, it's owned by Cheesecake Factory, so
yeah. That's right. I forgot about that because that's exactly what we thought. I'm like, dude, we looked it up, and that's right. I forgot it's
for the first 2 nights I stayed at the Mirage, 2 nights the Venetian. The event that I'm here for has been behind the Harrah's
Yeah, well, no, we stayed at the Palazzo.
Palazzo
one
next
that-
door.
Yeah, the suites. Yeah, because it was for my buddy Monty's wedding.
Oh,
So we
this
all-
is definitely sweet in here.
Oh yeah, yep, very much, almost the exact same layout as the room that we had. Yep,
High roller Thomas Schooley.
that's the same room that my buddy had. Yeah.
All right, now
That's the only place I'll stay if I go back to Vegas. I love that place.
I had Schooley.
That's happy hour lounge too. It's just a single floor. It's a little expensive, but for Vegas, it's cheap. And like from 4 to 7, you go up there and it's all you can drink.
We done Fremont Street already tonight. I don't know where we're going tonight, but tonight we're doing something because we're flying back.
Go find the mansion. Go break into the mansion.
Do it.
Wait, hey, listen, I went to Secret Pizza. The shooter said you gotta go to Secret Pizza. You
Thumbs up
gotta
or thumbs down?
go. Medium.
Have you been
Yeah.
to Nona? Have you eaten at Nona, Thomas?
No.
Okay, I want to know if there's a comparison there.
Well, Secret Pizza is this little, like, there's not really a sign or anything in the Cosmopolitan, and it's like you go down this Subway and it's New York style pizza, and I'm pretty sure every time I've ate there, had a few, maybe a few more than a few drinks in me. So
A few beverages.
You can't even ask where it's at in the hotel. They'll tell you they don't know what you're talking about because it's Secret Pizza.
Speakeasy pizza place.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. The Gordon Ramsay place we went to last night was not worth it. The prime rib is better at Outback than it was there.
well, you got to get the beef Wellington.
I know. I know.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
You went to Ramsay's and didn't get the Wellington.
Get
What
the
do you-
fuck out.
You were
This makes
fucking in a sandwich.
It makes me just want to go to watch the Bolts in Vegas next year.
I know. Next year I'm going on the trip. I didn't have Vegas booked, but I had San Jose, LA, and Anaheim booked. And then my father had a heart attack and I had to fly out, and he had open heart surgery, so I had to fly out there to Colorado for a week, and that pretty much put the kibosh on the LA or the California trip. But yeah, next year I'm booking it.
Next
For
year,
what?
my number one destination is to get to Mullet Arena before
That-
you can see
Before
NHL.
it's Salt Lake.
I'm hoping they'll do that trip. They usually don't, I feel like, but I'm hoping they do Vegas down to Arizona and maybe Colorado.
It's usually Colorado, Arizona.
You mean if they play there next year and not Salt Lake City?
I think they're locked in next year.
They're locked in still next
Yeah.
year. It would still be one more season after next year if they move.
All right, playoff hockey. Who you guys want? We're gonna know this time. Well, about this time next week, we should know for sure who we're gonna play. But who do you guys want?
Boston.
Anybody? I'm happy with Boston. I am. I'm happy with Boston. They overperformed this season. I think they had opportunities to play, like I said, in a weakened Eastern Conference, and took advantage of that early in the season. And they've been a fairly mediocre team since the first year.
And there's how it stands right now. You basically had that last spot in the Metro, which the Islanders have somehow slipped into. Nobody wants these last two spots. It's fucking
That's
awesome.
right?
And nobody wants it. And then the Caps, who we're going to play on Saturday, come watch the watch party with us in Cigar City, have that second wild card spot. But look right behind them. Yeah, Pittsburgh's right there. Detroit's still hanging on. The Flyers, I called it last week. I don't think the Flyers are going to make it. Sorry, Torch. You're going to get fired too. So Devils still kind of hanging on, but I think the Devils might be done for 79 points. Yeah.
No, they got eliminated.
Devils were eliminated last night.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. So they're
Yep.
done. So
Well, the
basically-
news of their elimination today, yes.
And got told Jack Hughes was gone for the rest of the season. So they got a double whammy yesterday.
So it's looking like, I mean, if it ended today, we will get Boston in that first round. So I'm curious what the folks in the chat, you guys both want Boston over anyone else. I mean, basically, I guess it could be New York, or it could be, well, I guess those are the two most.
Yeah,
likely.
it has to be
Boston and
Boston or New
Well,
York.
I mean, it could still be Florida. If Florida, right? Because if Florida were to take Boston but still be behind New York, that's who we would play, right?
Yeah, we would play the second place.
Right. We wouldn't play the first place team.
I wonder.
So it's most likely Florida or Boston. It's basically whoever wins the Atlantic, because most likely New York's going to hold on to win the Eastern.
Yeah, it's funny though, because you got to think these teams are thinking like, man, we don't want to win that President's Cup after the last couple teams that have won it. Boston knows real well. So do the Panthers. So I don't think the Rangers quite know yet, but I think they've been struck by that curse in the past before as well. So I don't think any team's tanking to not, win that trophy.
Yeah,
even though the consequences of being.
We've seen that too, right? We've seen that consequence too as well.
It's stung us deeply. I think Boston's was worse though, because Boston had that better regular season record to break the record that we tied with Detroit for, and then for them to go out to Florida like that was rough. But what's going to be crazy about this playoffs is in the East, like all these teams have been playoff teams. They've all got experience. We've got the most Stanley Cup experience though, so you got to think we've got a little bit of an edge as far as just, playoff experience and games played. But even though these teams might have not won as many cups as us in recent years, they're battle tested. These are playoff teams. They've been here before. It's not their first rodeo.
Here's what I'm sitting here though. I'm sitting here looking at my other screen, and these teams in the East I hear talking about, and they have playoff experience. But here we go, Boston. I think there's a bit of a chip on their shoulder after their historic season and then coming up short, right? And then before that, they've kind of had some futility even making the playoffs and whatnot, right? And then Florida, they've kind of been up and down in the playoffs. Yeah, they made a run to the final last year, but they kind of backed into the playoffs. Right. And
yeah, I felt like they were my favorite. If you asked me a month ago, they would have been my favorite. And then they went on this kind of the losing streak.
A month and a half ago, 4 to 6 weeks ago. Absolutely. They were probably everybody's lock to win the Stanley Cup, or at least make the Stanley Cup for the Eastern Conference. And now we're not sure. Right. Toronto. Do we even have to talk about their playoff history and the amount of pressure that's on there and the lack of ability to win series and to go deep in the playoffs? That's well documented. The Rangers, they're probably the only team that doesn't have a whole lot of pressure on them to win right now, right? Like they're that franchise and fan base. It's like, okay, they're kind of back on that cycle from whenever they were competing for Stanley Cups and then kind of went into the rebuild after they shipped us all their captains and all their players, right?
Why I don't want to play the Rangers is they were the first one in the East to clinch. No, I think they were. The Rangers were the first one.
Yes, they were.
So they, in their last 10, have been 8-2. Mm-hmm. They're not playing for any playoff position. I mean, you got Carolina behind them, but they're still got enough buffer. What is it, 3 points, I think, between them. 3 points, same amount of games. And
they played Montreal, Detroit, Jersey, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Philly. They played bottom dwellers in that 8-2 run as well. All right, so let's be fair.
But look at our record versus Arizona. Look at our record versus some of those. I mean, any of those, it could be a beat at any time. 8-2, they've lost.
Same.
They just lost their last one that they played, but they're coasting in there. So I think they're a little streaky. I think against Shesterkin, I think we do good against him, and I think we're in Igor's head. But I want Boston first round.
I honestly don't want or care this season. I watched the block party today, and I'm with Wolfie. Okay, I don't know if anybody watched it. You know me. I'm a huge fan. I support the hell out of that show. Everything
just came out like 3 hours ago, so yeah.
But he was talking about how it seems almost like destiny that Duclair and Dumba came to this team this year, right? Because something we didn't talk about earlier, and JBB didn't even know, is that those guys are like best friends. Like they've been talking about wanting to play with each other since, years and years now, right? And so it's like that almost like that destiny thing, right? Where it's like it's just kind of meant to be, and like things happen for a reason at a certain time. You were talking earlier about how healthy this team is, and it absolutely is something to think about how healthy Hedman is. It's absolutely criminal. As upsetting as it is that Kucherov isn't the runaway MVP talk right now, it's equally upsetting that Victor Hedman isn't in the talk as a top 3 candidate for the Norris Trophy right now.
They both just make it look too easy.
Another 70-point season. Once again, voted to be the guy that you don't want to play against on the defense, especially in their own end. He's a plus on a team that was horrible, right? Like defensively, and it still has the most goals against out of all the playoff teams, right, in the East. Like it here he is, healthy as he can be. Stamkos feeling it, healthy as he can be. Hagel having a career season and just seemingly doing all the right things, no matter where he is, whether it's the top line, the second line, the third line at times, the power play, the PK, maybe drawing a few too many tripping penalties here and there. Okay,
he's been in the box a lot,
especially lately. But hey, I will say the other thing, a lot of growth out of Hagel this year. Remember, he was throwing a lot of hissy fits early on in the season, not getting a lot of calls. Stopped throwing so many hissy fits. Started getting some more calls this way. Yes, he's drawn. He's drawn some penalties, but he's taken some penalties, but he's started drawing a lot more penalties as well since he's calmed down, stopped throwing hissy fits, just going out there playing hockey.
Yeah, he's an emotional player,
and I love it. I love the fire that he comes with. That I don't think there's enough of that in the top 6. I think some of those guys are a little bit too quiet and a little bit too workmanlike, if you will, when they go out there about their hockey. Not Brandon Hagel. That guy plays.
We won that game when Vegas was at Amalie earlier this season, and Hagel gets in that fight, and he's pulling up the crowd.
Yes,
that was a turning point in that game. That's why we won that game.
I agree, 100%.
So as long as he can control that and channel that into some goals and hyping up the team.
Reminded me of Wu, from D2, the third Bass brother.
Yeah. But 72 points on the season. 70 used to be kind of the barometer. I don't know what it is anymore. Like a good offensive player, 70 points was a great season.
Yeah.
So these days where you see these guys, getting 100 assists at the top of the board, I don't know if we got to pump that up to 80 now, or even 90. But I think 72 for Hagel is a good season. He's not done yet. 24 goals. I wanted him to get over 30 again. But I'll take all the extra stuff that he does on the PK and everything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, Point's another guy that we just haven't really talked too much about, and Point really started the season slow, and it's just taken off since the new year. He's back over 40 goals, has a chance to get up to 50 again in these last couple of games. But another guy who's, started the season slow, who seems like he's just on the a tear to get into the playoffs and do some damage. And obviously when you're playing with the best player in the world, makes it very nice.
Yeah. Another 40-40 season for him, Stamkos right on, knocking on the door of another 40-40 season. I don't know. I don't know what to say about the captain. Evergreen.
It's
right?
so weird because he only had like 4 or 5 points in February. Like at the end of February, we're talking about like, is this guy done? Do we want him to come back? Obviously, we always want him to come back because he's our captain and he's been here, and we want him to retire as a Bolt.
But do we want him for more than $4 million? Right.
Yeah, but I think he's earned his monies now these last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And again, hopefully that can carry over into the playoffs, because we have seen Stamkos kind of disappear in the playoffs in the past before.
Yeah.
And we will need him to step up, because I'm telling you, I mentioned it earlier, these teams are going to do the very best thing that they can do to shut down Cooch in the playoffs, and Cooch is going to get frustrated. We've seen him get frustrated in the past.
Oh yeah,
in these playoff series, but he's just got to deal with it, and the other guys have to start to elevate and deliver, and they've been doing it the last couple of weeks.
Well, I think one of the great things, again, we go back to this Duclair edition, and it's just going to keep paying dividends because it really changes the tone of that top line, whether it's Duclair or whether it's Hagel on that line. You know what I mean? It really does. Like Kucherov basically does what he does because he just does it so often and he practices so much. He just knows everything. Like he's like a precog out there, but it's only because he's done it a million times, right? We talk about it, preparation, mindset, and how all the greats talk about. Kobe Bryant is probably one of the more famous. Steph Curry, also basketball players, I guess, are kind of famous for this. And their visualization and like visualizing the entire game before they go and play it. And they basically already played the game before it even happens on the court. Jordan was also very famous for doing those things. Tiger Woods, in his heyday, was very famous for visualizing his entire round of golf, and then going out and doing. That's these things that Kucherov does, but he does it differently. He doesn't visualize it. He physically goes out and does it. And he puts himself in these positions all around the board. And he knows exactly. It's not that he has eyes in the back of his head or that he knows that the guy's going to be there. It's that he knows that 85% of the time, the guy's going to be there. And if he puts the puck right here, more often than not, there's going to be someone to make a play on it. So he trusts the fact that he can just put the puck there even if he's not looking at it because he's done it so many times. He's run the numbers, if you will.
Happens multiple times every game this season.
Every game. The one that just a couple games when he was on his knees and did a backhand perfect pass right in front of the net. Like, it's unconscious, the kind of shit he does. Like last night, the power play goal to Stamkos. I think it was Aaron on the Pat and Aaron show. I saw a post today talking about how, are you done being amazed by what Kucherov does? My comment was, if Stamkos is still impressed, how can I not be? Right? If Stamkos still looks at him with eyes like saucers, like, how did you just make that pass? And I'm talking about Stamkos here, man. Steven stinking Stamkos. Not some average jabroni who just is lucky to be on the same line or on the ice with Kucherov saying something like, oh my God, doesn't. No. Stamkos, who's played with Kucherov his entire career. He has seen every play firsthand that Kucherov has ever made, and he was still amazed at the pass that he made for that power play one time yesterday.
Yeah. I saw a quote from Pavel Datsyuk about, how amazing he thinks Kuch is and how we're all so lucky to be able to just watch this guy play. And it's so funny
how lucky I was to watch Datsyuk play. Like, that's one of my favorite guys of all time to watch play the game.
Best hands ever, the magician. Yes. Unfortunately, we were on the wrong side of many of those games against him back then. But the times have changed, Detroit. But
I'm looking for you now.
I still think it's kind of a disadvantage for Cooch and Hedman that they just make it look too easy. Like, I was talking to Ty last night, and Ty has been on the show. He's an Avalanche fan, so we're talking about McKinnon and Cooch and going back and forth. And like Cooch, McKinnon looks like he tries hard, and he does try hard. Cooch doesn't look like he's even trying, and you can say the same thing about Hedman. It just makes it look too easy, and I swear they get discredited because it just looks like they're not even trying.
Also, Kucherov doesn't look like an athlete, right? I don't know what it is about these Russian skaters that come over here. Ovi's the other one. Ovi's never looked like an athlete to me in his entire life.
Yeah, he's a big guy though. Cooch isn't that.
He's a big guy, but he never looked to carry himself like an athlete. Like Cooch obviously does not. McKinnon, McJesus. You look at these guys, and you're absolutely right. You see the way they play, the way they work, the way their body looks. Like, it's okay. They use their athleticism. It's pure skill from Kucherov. It's pure skill. It's not that he isn't an athlete. Of course he's an athlete, but it's all skill from him, and it's all in his mind. Right?
Yeah. Well, it's all the IQ. I mean, even you had Gretzky talking about him, how he's super impressed by by him. And Gretzky, a lot of people would say he's the greatest, NHL IQ of all time. But true, you got to put Super Mario up there for sure. But Cooch is right up there with these guys. I just wish he wasn't overshadowed so much in this era by McDavid. And McDavid is great. There's no doubt about it. But Cooch is our guy.
It's 2.0 though, right? We're used to it here in Tampa. Because think about it, Stamkos, overshadowed by Crosby and Ovechkin his entire career. I was just posting about this on Facebook yesterday. Like, people are like, oh, well, he wasn't really overshadowed because you look at how many more goals and how many more. He has 200 less games than Sidney Crosby played, right? And of those 200 games, how many? Almost 80 of those were rehab games where he's coming back from shoulder surgery from his leg, and then his thoracic blood clot surgery where he had to have surgery on his shoulder, and he had blood thinners and was no contact. Like, Crosby had the concussion stuff, and sure, he missed some time for that, but that didn't affect his gameplay when he came back on the ice. You know what I'm saying? He was ready to go. Well, Stamkos has come back from possibly career-ending injuries, and let's be honest, when he broke his leg, that they didn't have the same medicine technology they have now. The Sergachev is having the benefit of, right? Remember when Stamkos had his surgery and how touch and go, and we weren't sure, and his rehab was not the same, and it was a tough rehab for him, and we didn't know if he was going to be the same guy.
Yeah, that was a bad break. Right.
So, and so here we are again with another generational talent going to be overshadowed because he plays in Tampa and he's Russian. Well, and I'll keep saying that that's the bias. It's because he's Russian and it's because he plays in Tampa. Just like Stamkos. If Stamkos had played in Toronto or another Original Six team or any Canadian team, he would have been the face of the NHL over Crosby, over Ovechkin, because he was a Canadian kid. He would have been the face of the entire league. He would have if he was not in Tampa Bay. That's the only reason that kept him from being the face of the franchise, or the face of the league. And it's the same thing with Kucherov.
You know what will help with that is if these guys get a couple more cups. Then
I was going to say
that's what we're going to look back.
Well, but here's the thing: is no one in Tampa has really ever, except unless it's a goalie, has ever gotten credit anywhere, not been overshadowed until their career was done. Yeah. Even with Dave Andrechuk, he was always considered a Buffalo player. He was never considered with the Lightning. You look at Marty St. Louis. He really didn't get credit for being undrafted, being how small he was until he retired, and now a coach at Montreal. Vinny Lecavalier, number one pick, never really got any kind of credit. And there's several, but not just our former captains, but you think of some of the other players that have came here that have been overshadowed. Your Andre Palat, your Tyler Johnsons, your Alex Killorns, and that's just in recent years. But you go back, and there's so many that have been overshadowed that unless you're a goalie, Ben Bishop, Andre Vasilevsky, Nikolai Hobby-Bolin, and it's always been goalies here in Tampa that have gotten the name recognition. Other than that, you're kind of crapped on.
Yeah. Well, and that's not going to be too much longer that the rest of the hockey world isn't going to be able to talk that much shit, because ever since Fennick era, and even really before that, but like the last 20 years, you guys, especially Shooter, because you play, the amount of facilities that have come up in this area and the amount of dedication to ice hockey in this state over the last 20 years has surpassed any other state in how much they're growing. And the fact that we already have players from this area that are being signed and they're playing in minor leagues, and we have homegrown talent that's now playing pro hockey, and they're now prospects in the NHL pipeline. It's cool to have an Austin Matthews that came from Arizona, and it's nice that a Shane Doan stayed there and had his kid and came up in Arizona, and that's great. But we're about to start seeing some legitimate world-class hockey players come out of Florida, come out of Central Florida, come out of this area.
I think they're the Crunch Club team just won a national tournament.
A national
state game last night, and my son's on that team.
One of the kids lives in my neighborhood. Yes, His mom posted one of their kids lives in our neighborhood up here in Newport Richey. I mean, like it feel like The Rock. It's got Goosies. It's got the Goosies talking about it. You know what I mean? Like that's where we are right now. And you can sit here and keep burying us and doing whatever you want as a fan from abroad, from one of the other, fan bases, other markets. But right now, according to the last poll, which is a couple years old, we're number 12 TV market in the nation. After the next census, I guarantee we're going to be top 10. We're the number 1 destination for millennials in the country to move to. Tampa, Jacksonville. We're just growing. We're just getting bigger. People are coming here to start families. Hockey in Central Florida is going to change the landscape of North American hockey within the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah, and you got to remember, we're all first generation Lightning fans. So,
Exactly.
Our children and this next generation is going to be that's their team. They're born here. That's the Boston fan that lives in Clearwater that is at, of course, tomorrow night I'll have a Lightning jersey on, but when Boston comes out, he's wearing his Bruins jersey, whatever.
But then his kid's always wearing the Lightning jersey. You know what I mean? Hopefully. He might be wearing the Boston, but that's the thing that I like to see. And that's what happens. That's how we start getting new fans too. It's like, sure, you're transplants, but your kids are born here. And your kids are going to grow up. And sure, maybe they'll wear your stuff early on, but eventually they're going to be of their own mind.
They're going to buy their own.
They're going to want to put on for their city, man. Well, and that's the thing, that's the other thing. Dude, I love living here, man. I wasn't born here, but I've been here most of my adult life, pretty much my entire adult life, and I put on for my city. I love being from Tampa. I love representing Tampa Bay area. And it's only going to become more of that. People that move here fall in love with this area overnight. We see professional athletes. It happens with regular folks too,
Yep. And it's Bolts Nation now. Like you said, Thomas, you had Bolts fans out there when I was out in Arizona, even when I was up in the desert. I'm always rocking my stuff and met someone from Sarasota with the Lightning shirt on. Hey, so there were a couple fans out there. So it's crazy how much this team's grown and
Colorado. When I was out there,
Roscoe out there repping the area out in California. So it's just really cool. I rember going to my first Lightning game and it was complete.
It was like going to a Rays game back then.
Yeah. So it's pretty wild.
By the way, 2 more Lightning babies about to be born in Tampa. Connor Sherry's wife, Jordan, and Stammer's wife, Sandra, has finally, they've confirmed.
They finally confirmed.
All right. Well, they're not due during the playoffs, right?
From what I hear, Sherry's wife is close to during playoff team. And Stammers is going to be towards Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, come on, Stamkos.
Hey.
How many kids you need? All right, so I wanted to ask you guys about
because we all remember what happened during the bubble, right? So good for them now.
Yes,
true.
Well, and they've had one since.
Yeah. To continue to keep growing their family, but
but that they're hoping for a girl. I believe they already know what it was, but I am not.
There's Nope.
I haven't had that info yet.
0 chance. Good boy. I
guarantee. Speaking of Lightning fathers, we kind of talked about Sergachev, and we saw him skating in videos, and then we saw him this week skating in practice with the non-contact jersey. Do you think there's a chance he does come back if we make a deep run into the playoffs?
ECF, yes. ECF.
Yeah.
If we make the ECF, yes.
Although I'm trying not to get my hopes up. I don't think they'll rush him to get back, especially the way he got injured. Maybe coming back a little too soon from the previous injury.
Right. Well, that's kind of a hard thing to say, right? Because of that injury, it's like a twisting, falling back motion. But I will say there's still a lot of elements to his game. All right. It's one thing to be out there skating. And again, I thought you were over there at the ice bucket finally making your ass a damn adult beverage, Schoolie, but no. Bro.
Totally different person.
If you don't bring some of those Little Caesars thick chains back, we're going to have problems. All right. I need one of those on my fucking wall right now.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about if
But no.
if Sergachev can come back. I did go back and I was reading earlier today. Cooper did mention right after he had surgery, if they do have a long run in the playoffs, he could be back. So they were thinking back then it's possible.
The thing is blocking shots, right? Because he leads the team in block shots, even still. It comes to block shots. It comes to the twisting motion. It comes to him going down again in an awkward way. If it's on that one leg, like, do they go back? And that's the other thing I don't know is I'm pretty sure that for him to have this kind of recovery, that means they lift the hardware in, right? Because a lot of times they have the option of going back and taking at least like the plate. Because what I imagine, because as similar to mine and also Dak Prescott, it's basically the exact same injury Dak Prescott had, except his bone was a protruding fracture. Is that there's rods on your tibia inside, and then there's also a steel plate usually that goes on your fibula on the outside, and that plate usually they will remove, but that extends your rehab by like 2 to 3 weeks. So to me, I would say that if he's this close and he's coming back this quickly, that he probably left the hardware in, didn't have the surgery to go back and remove, because that's screwed into the bone. You know what I mean? So when they remove those screws, you have to then wait for the bone to heal from where the screws were in that plate, and then it has to finish restabilizing there. So, which is why I still have my plate and my ankles, because I didn't want to go through that and go back through, and also for me, Joe Schmo, I didn't have to pay for it. That's another full surgery and all that. So, but so that's the other question I have is taking pucks off of that, what that's going to be like. You know, the movement, the agility. It's one thing to go out there and have a skate. It's another thing to go out there and play a hockey game, and especially
if there's no setback.
Right, a playoff hockey game. On top of that, it's not just regular season. We're talking second season here, season
and deep in the playoffs. And that's my other worry is, do you bring him back in the Eastern Conference Final and
that's a liability
of the team playing well like they are now?
Right.
That's a tough decision that Cooper might have to make, but it's not a bad option.
I say no matter what, unless it's the final and he was healthy enough to skate with the team the entire ECF but just didn't play, then I would say we just let him come back next season. You know what I mean? That's where I stand on it. Like just let this team roll the way it is, and unless you have an injury or you see there's a hole in the defense that's being kind of exposed and you're able to kind of overcome it the first couple rounds, I just don't see rushing him.
Yeah,
because that's the other thing is now after this season, because that was the other guy I talked about moving was Sergachev, because him and Cirelli were the only guys that didn't have movement clauses on their contract this year, right? And Sergachev, his movement clause kicks in next year. Cirelli still has one more year before his clause moves. So that was the thing. I was like, hey, we could still move Sergachev and Cirelli at the deadline and get a king's ransom for those two guys, right? Well, now after this season, he's here, he's locked up, and that's fine with me. I like where he's at. He's developing, and in another 2 years with the cap going up, his contract isn't going to look kind of as bad as it kind of does right now, Yeah. So his contract will age well, I believe, along with him. So, but yeah, I don't want to rush him back because he is the future of the blue line behind Hedman. So I don't want any lingering injuries. The heir apparent, absolutely. He is the keys to the kingdom of the blue line. So,
And I see Corey's question here about getting your name on the cup. I don't know what
they must play 41 games or one game in the Stanley Cup final for the cup winning team. Now, occasionally they have asked for exceptions, and we've seen that. But right now the rule is 41 regular season games. He isn't to that. or one Stanley Cup final game.
So just have to get in one game to get it
Yeah.
on. I mean, that'd be a shame if they can pull this off and for him to not get his name on that cup.
But if he is able to even step on the ice, they will activate him to literally step on and then get back off. If they, as long as it's not a game 7 or something like that, they will give him that opportunity.
Because I remember we talked about this before the Black Aces, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then whether they get their name on the cup, and they have to actually play a game if they do to be able to get their name on the cup, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's not just being on the roster. You actually have to play it.
Yep.
He's going to get 500 games next season. That's wild.
In 1994, a stipulation was added to allow a team to petition the commissioner for permission to have players' names put on the cup if extenuating circumstance prevented them from being able to play. The only one that does not have to play in one game is the backup goaltender.
And ours will not. Although Tompkins, who is our backup goaltender right now, see if JoJo comes back, played okay. Gave up 5 goals against the Habs, but had some big saves.
Yeah. That was one of those games where a semi-trap game against a team that had things been slightly different, I think that the Lightning would have played a little bit harder, and they wouldn't have been the comeback effort from Les Habitants, and the Lightning would have had to put their foot back on the gas. But yeah, never in question that game. That game was never in question.
Not really. I mean, they started to come back. They came within 2 goals. Sorry, Marty.
Sorry.
But the thing that scared me that game was Sorelli and Hagel going off. But
yes,
cautionary from what
yes. And then the Fleury having the contact with the referee. These are the things we have to avoid.
Oh yeah, that was the Pittsburgh game. So that was the last game we lost.
Yeah.
Which amazing job by the team coming back in that third period to almost come back and win it. But of course, Pittsburgh's they're Crosby and Malkin are putting the team on their backs again.
Talk about a Hart Trophy guy that, I mean, clearly not, and I hate to even say it, but Crosby should be a little bit in contention for the Hart Trophy with the fact that he's leading his team in points right now and that they're about to maybe make the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He's had another 40-40 season.
And they traded, one of their best players.
Yes.
The trade deadline.
Right at the deadline.
I hate the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I'm not a huge Crosby and Malkin fan, but you got to give them some credit for what they're doing. And we'll see if they make it. They're on the outside looking in right now, but they are one of the hotter teams that actually is trying to win games. Or actually, I know they're all trying to win games. They are winning games.
They're kind of winning games when it matters, sort of.
Yeah. Well, they lost in overtime or shootout last night too.
So this is breaking news that Coyotes may move to Salt Lake City starting next season, and the organization's AHL team would have to play in Mullet Arena.
That's stupid.
That's weird. But see,
the Tuscan Roadrunners would have to replace them at the Mullet Arena.
I want to say it was the hockey guy that I've been watching a lot this year that was talking about they don't have anywhere to play in Salt Lake yet, do they?
They have the
basketball arena.
Yeah, they do. There's going to have to be some hockey specific changes to it, but that guy has lots of money that it would be able to be changed.
But what I heard is that the Jazz were not this doesn't include the Jazz and that they don't want to use that facility for hockey. That's what I heard. That guy doesn't have anything to do with the Jazz.
What's that arena? Is it Delta Arena? Something with the D, I think.
But from what I heard, that it would have that they don't want it, that they don't want to share that facility.
Yeah, the Delta Center. That is where they would put them until a new one was built.
And but see, to me, I just don't like. Why do you understand? Okay, what is it? I gotta remember because I dismissed it. I did the research. What was this back in November, December? I want to say the last time this kind of came up and was a big deal. and I dismissed it because the Salt Lake City TV market is like 30th or some dumb shit like that. I can't type right now.
Well, it sure sounds like they are going to get themselves a hockey.
33rd. Salt Lake City is the 33rd TV market in the United States. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Because we're looking at the top 30 teams and it would be the third. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, Vegas is a 42nd. That's weird that they have such a smaller, but they have a much bigger, broad national viewing. But yeah.
Hey,
comments are like everything just keeps getting weirder about this every day.
Phoenix is number 12. Phoenix is 12th. Phoenix is ahead of Tampa right now, technically right now, and the station index that I'm looking at right now. Who knows which is absolutely right, but Phoenix and Tampa right there at 12 and 13. You're really gonna move a team out of borderline top 10 TV market.
you got nowhere to play.
Happening.
It's
I don't
really
understand
the
how-
ownership's fault that they couldn't figure out by now. Arena.
It'll be another Atlanta. Atlanta's going to get a team again, and Arizona will get a team again.
I feel like this is going to be a situation that like we could do an entire series of shows on, right? Just talking about how it's absolutely ridiculous that we have these multi-billion dollar professional sports leagues and owners don't have to know fuck all about the sports that they own or franchise in to come in and be owners, right? Like how many of these people are barely successful business people or even really successful business people, but have no idea what it is to run a franchise and a sports team and come in and basically run it in the ground, or somehow they're handed down, right, from generation to generation.
But it's not just sports, it's every company. Because let me tell you, being here for this convention, I met so many owners of some Little Caesars, and I can tell you it's in everything. And I know last one, Duncan, coming seeing different owners. They don't even know how to make a cup of coffee. I mean, so it's everything. And Vinnick is one of the people. He doesn't know anything about hockey. He did it. He made it very obvious, but he hired the right people that could do it for him. And that's where Arizona lost down, not hiring the people that you can surround yourself with people that can do it for you.
Listen, a savvy business person is a savvy business person. Okay. So it's not necessarily saying that you don't have to necessarily know something about the sport. You got to know about teamwork. You got to understand how to build a business and how to build a structure, right? And building a franchise is really no different than building a business. You just got to get out of your own way and admit that you don't really have to be an expert, like you say, but you got to be an expert on people, not an expert on the industry that you're in, right? And I think that's where Jeffrey Vinnick has done a great job as an owner, and where I think that if the leagues are going to start getting involved like the NHL has in a franchise like Arizona and come in and be an owner and then basically go handpick, because they basically went.
I think that's where they messed up. I think that's where they messed up.
Well, they messed up whenever they took over the team. That's fine. Yeah. Then they didn't find the right owner. They didn't find the right guy. Let's find the people or the group or the person that we can make sure isn't just going to come in and again be another freaking snake oil salesman, right? Oh, I promise. Oh, I could get it done. No, work with the guy to make sure it gets done. Go into Phoenix as a team, the NHL, the owner, the city, and make it happen, because hockey in the desert is a good thing. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I think it's a good thing to have hockey in Arizona. I really do. And it's a shame that the NHL has just completely mishandled it the way they have. And I think a big part of it is pressure from the fan base. And, they don't want Bettman to be involved, and Bettman this, Bettman that, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a shit. I love Gary Bettman. I've said it on this program before when I was on the show on a regular basis. I'm a fan of Gary Bettman as commissioner. I think he's done a fantastic job. you know, the lockout was garbage. The salary cap sucks, but what's happened and what he's done within this framework of what happened coming out of that 06 lockout, 04, 05 lockout, he's done everything he can. He's grown the sport. You know, he's brought in, you know, teams and locations. Like, he's done well, but he couldn't do more in Arizona because then he would be accused of favoritism and anti-Canadian bias, like he already is anyways, right?
Yeah.
So you can only do so much.
I don't think it helped that Arizona just, you know, they didn't have much success, right? When you start winning, like imagine if Tampa didn't win in 04, like, right? And it took that long. It took till 2020 for the team to win a Stanley Cup. I don't know if there'd still be a team here because it was 04 when things really started to take off. And even, you know, that tripled down in the last, you know, 4 years here. So you got to have some success to get people excited. But that's a shame because I really like Arizona. I like Phoenix. That area is a really cool area.
Yeah, it is. It really is, man.
Hey, before I forget, I am obligated to tell you about GT's GT Financial's Bolts debit card. Now, not only can you have the coolest card in town, but they're giving you $100 to sign up for the account. Yeah. So use the Bolts card. Don't worry, we'll post about it tomorrow, so you can go sign up for your GT Financial Bolts card. And if you see them out before the game, they usually have these cool hats they're giving out too. So go say hi to GT Financial and tell them Thomas Schooley sent you. They'll be like, "Who?
The man in the bush. The man over there in the bush."
They'll be like,
"Are you kidding me? He's in the bush right now."
It's really weird doing because I want to see the spear so much. So I keep finding myself looking over my shoulder, and then I'll see something interesting and be like, "Well, what the hell is it?" It's a really cool thing. Everybody in Vegas hates it, but it's really cool.
I think it's awesome. I think we're gonna start seeing spears all over the world.
I don't know what this episode would have been like without Thomas and the sphere.
That's like the name of this episode.
It's not the Return of the Stache.
No, it's the sphere. Totally overshadowed.
I've been upstaged again.
Yeah, I want to. So, what are they doing in that thing? Do you walk by it? Are they doing like movies or something?
They're doing some kind of tour thing in there.
This was the world 2 billion years ago.
Yeah.
Close your eyes and take a trip back in time. It's just like a planetarium, dude. That's what I want it to be.
It's Epcot. It's the, what do they call that thing in Epcot?
Oh,
yeah.
The big ball.
Yeah. But the Uber driver said it's horrible. There's only one way in and one way out. It's like one lane in, one way out. They said in Vegas, they don't think about the traffic problem. They just think, will it make me money? Here you go. so they, like last night we were getting an Uber somewhere and he got a pickup from the Sphere. He said, nope. He declined it. He's like, I will not go there.
Bishop
Earth. Yeah.
Did they ever update that? I remember the last time going in there, it's like they got to like the internet happened. And I was like, the internet happened a while ago, guys. Like, are we going to add on to this? Come on, Spaceship Earth. Get up to date. We want to see some AI incorporated in this in the future. I think they're redoing it. I thought I heard someone say they're redoing the whole Spaceship.
I mean, I don't understand why Disney wouldn't turn Epcot into that exact same thing.
Yeah,
well, I mean?
Yeah, you could.
Like, I think it would only take them like one season of like, you know, the big.
So the Sphere experience right now is like you're deep in the ocean, is what it's telling me. Postcards featuring postcards from Earth. Tickets on sale now at thesphere.com.
Yeah, I figured they got some.
They're not sponsors, but
right?
Not yet. After they see this podcast, they will be.
There's a QR code if anybody can reach their
baby. Right.
Sorry, GT Financial. We're going to the Sphere.
We're going to the Sphere. The stratosphere.
So yeah, it's been it's been a great trip.
I thought I saw the Eagles are going to be the next ones that have their
residency there.
Yeah,
I heard that U2 was not the success that everyone thought they were going to be at the Sphere. my current hero, Pat McAfee, had a less than ideal experience at the Sphere during Super Bowl weekend. He said.
Well, I know someone that did see you too, and they showed me pictures. It looked pretty badass.
I also know someone that saw you two there, and it looked pretty badass. I'm just saying, no. The internet, the interwebs, we can trust the interwebs. They're all right. It's always right.
Hey, well, we know one thing: the Sphere will win the Jack Adams Trophy before Championship.
And they'll probably win a Norris Trophy as well, and also probably a Hart Trophy this season.
Yeah.
It sucked
The NHL awards will be in the Sphere, and then the Sphere will be the winner of all the trophies and awards that the Lightning players.
It sucked. The Knights were on the road the whole time we've been here, but we did have the Knights drumline at our conference during this little ditty. Let's see.
Did you tell me you have a podcast?
Let me see when it gets on stage.
This is how his team says. This is how his team says. Oh, you have to stop it. They're gonna copyright this whole episode.
Come on, bro. He already did the what song did you play earlier? Viva Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's Elvis. That's public domain by now.
See, there's the drum line there.
That's cool.
The Vegas drum line came out.
That's dope.
It is funny. The owners of my franchise was sitting next to me. Was it them? Yeah, they were sitting next to me, and I said something about. I said, "Oh, that's the Vegas Golden Knights drum line," and they go, "I was wondering how they taught Little Caesars employees how to do that good." And I was like, no. They didn't train anybody to do that. That's the Vegas drum line.
One hell of an event staff they have here at Caesars.
Okay, makes sense.
Next week they'll be serving the buffet line. Don't you worry. There's multi-talented employees here in Vegas. All right, they got to do it all.
I can only imagine. I like how you go there for Little Caesars, and then Secret Pizza wasn't the only pizza place you went to. I saw. Like, I'm just gonna need more pizza while I'm here. Do you guys all do that together?
We do it as Dave Portnoy in Vegas.
Yeah, well, I mean, you always check out the competition, but Vegas is known for these award-winning pizza people and stuff like that. So
I gotta get you over to Nona.
The one I posted the one night that had the ricotta sitting on it and everything, it was so good. And that guy has won 13 national pizza championships, and is very well known and has like 14 restaurants in California and Las Vegas and all kinds of places. So it's just checking out the competition. And I'm fat and I like pizza, and there is no Little Caesars down here on the strip. So
I still love Anthony's pizza, man. I don't know, something about Anthony's, that meatball ricotta, and then they have the hot honey. I know everyone's doing hot honey now, but there's no point
on pizza. That's everything.
Now you're making me hungry.
That's part of Nona. That's why I love Nona, man, because hot honey, they got a couple of great pies.
Listen, White Castle, In-N-Out Burger are both like 2 minutes from me, and I'm trying to decide which one's for dinner.
That's
both overrated.
No. Not White Castle. Not White Castle. That's not over.
Well, do you have some Pepto-Bismol on you?
I was gonna say.
No, I know for a fact there's a CVS only about a block and a half down from the Venetian.
Walgreens right underneath us. Walgreens.
The Walgreens. That's right. Sorry, it's the Walgreens. The Walgreens.
Yep,
exactly.
Right there next
to
the
Walgreens, like right there on the other side of the roundabout or whatever, the canal, right out in front where they do the gun. Yep, it's right there.
I'm always a little underwhelmed by In-N-Out. I've probably only been there like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, this is what you guys are all talking about, like that I got to go do.
We have our California aficionado weighing in, Matthew Roscoe. In-N-Out, White Castle are trash. He's halfway right as usual. He's only half right. In-N-Out's trash. White Castle worth it.
White Castle's good. It's a good stoner treat. down 10 little burgers real quick.
Listen, I will say, I've had back in the day when I was in Chicago, maybe one or two Harold and Kumar moments where it's like, shit, we've got to have White Castle, but no different than whenever I was in my early 20s going to Taco Bus on Nebraska, right? Like maybe I was in Ybor City, got to make it to Nebraska. Maybe I was all the way in Clearwater, got to make it to Nebraska, got to get the Taco Bus. You know,
I agree. Whataburger is
He
better.
likes Whataburger better than.
this guy loves to bring up my pain. This guy just loves to, I don't know, between Schooley and Roscoe, I don't know which one of you is worse, bringing up my pain.
Well, we used to have Whataburgers here. They got rid of all of them.
No,
They're in Pensacola still.
The recession. There's one in Ocala that I go to every time I drive through. I stop at that one. Actually, no, just north of Gainesville. It's right there, north of High Springs, actually. Sometimes I go out of my way when we're going to Jenny Springs. If you go one exit further north, there's a Whataburger.
It's not Ocala. It's like past Gainesville.
Yeah, it's past Gainesville.
Oh, speaking of White Castle, there's one in Florida, and I'm heading to Orlando tomorrow.
Orlando, yeah.
So maybe I'll stop and I'll post some pictures on our account if I stop at White Castle, but don't count on it.
Well, it's a strategy. Okay, the fervor has worn off. All right. Yeah. So when I was there, I guess about a year ago, last June, when we went over to Orlando, I went to White Castle, and if you go like mid-afternoon, like in between, like right after lunch rush, and then before that 4 or 5 o'clock, like around that 2 o'clock rush, the 2 o'clock moment, you're in and out there, no problem. See what I did there? See.
In and out.
Yep. In and out at White Castle. Yeah. Well, I got to get back to Tampa because I got a hockey game to go to tomorrow.
Well,
so,
nothing better than a few gut burgers and a couple of racks of fries before a hockey game. Right?
No, that's the problem. You got to get back on I-4, and then
you're going the wrong way.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. You know the best thing about moving to the suburbs, y'all, is I don't have to take I-4 to go to fucking Orlando anymore. Absolutely do not have to put a single tire on I-4 to go to Orlando anymore.
This hotel is too bougie for me. Are we almost done here? I don't know what this thing does. So,
what is it, Thomas?
I don't know. Look. Okay, so
I'm just glad that you're not in the bathroom right now. So I know that
we're not on the window frame. It's here on the window frame, and you push this little thing in, and it comes up, and more air comes out.
It allows vent from the actual outside, fresh air. It's a fresh air vent.
Oh, see?
Since you can't open the windows because people dive out of them to kill themselves, that's their way to allow fresh air into the room if you want.
The more you know. Listen, there was a window cleaner doing the pet houses today, and that was scary enough for me. I was gonna crap my pants for him.
Hopefully you had your pants on.
Bullshit. You know he's Porky Pigget in Vegas the whole time. That's why Schooley's there. He couldn't wait to go there and just Porky Pigget.
Dude, I hate when like the staff housekeeping comes at like 10:01 when your checkout's at 10, knocking on the door right away. I'm like, motherfucker, I'm still here. You can wait. You don't have to knock on my door.
I'm on the 5th floor. Y'all can't start on the first damn floor. Get out of here.
I feel like that happens everywhere I go. It happened the last time I did it.
It's time to go. It's time to end this shit.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, we've gone from fast food to housekeeping and hotel.
Because my compadre, my support family showed up.
Oh yeah, I'm right here. He's here. You're gonna have to listen to the replay. An hour and 45 minutes of.
We're not going 3 hours.
We did talk about hockey for probably an hour 20. So
at least we did a good job.
Not much to talk about, But yeah, 100 assists for Cooch tomorrow. He's got to get 4 to get to 100. But hey, he can do it. If anyone can do it, he can do it. Yeah. So yeah, big game. Well, not a huge game against Ottawa, but we've got, what do we have left on the schedule here? Let's pull it up for the people to see. By the way, if you're one of those freaks that just listens to us, sometimes we share our screens and show graphics or TampaBayLightning.com. So yeah, you got Ottawa, and then you got the Caps on the road. Last road game is Saturday. You can come watch it with us. 5:30 puck drop. So get there early. It's not a 7 o'clock start time. Cigar City on Spruce. First beer's free. And then we've got Buffalo coming to town, and then Toronto for that last game of the season. And then by then we will know who we're facing in the playoffs. I think we will probably either go live after Wednesday night's game or Thursday next week. Probably Thursday if Schoolie can, because by then we'll know what our matchups are, so we can kind of break down what we're getting into. Probably the matchup with the Boston Bruins, but things could change between now and then.
And I'm pretty sure that Toronto needs now
3 points. 3
points.
Three.
Okay, I wasn't. I was sitting here trying to do the math. I'm just not sure how many games. It doesn't show how many games remaining. Toronto has. Wait, 4. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 3. Okay.
All that matters now is Kucherov winning this scoring title, because if he wins that, he better win the Hart.
If he's the first winger to ever get 100 assists in a season and then doesn't win the fucking Hart Trophy, then that is the new official #1 bullshit.
Yeah.
Burn down the NHL.
Burn
it down.
Burn the fucking Wait, listen. You know what? That's the best thing about being a Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I gotta say, it's been good to come back, boys. It's been a great time hanging out with you guys. But what I love about being a Tampa Bay Lightning fan is because, as far as I'm concerned, we have been burning it down. We've been burning this league down from the South up, and people fucking hate it, and I love it. I'm here for it, and I'm here for another run. I believe that something about this season is special. The adversity we had to go through, the first round exit last year, everyone being worn down from the 3 finals, 2 cups before that, COVID, stress, life, crazy shit. This team finally, not only physically healthy, but mentally rested, mentally less fatigued than they have been in the last several seasons.
Yeah.
Better watch out. Better get ready. Better strap in. Better get your popcorn, your blankets, everything you need, your lawn chairs, your movie screens, whatever it is that you do to get in the playoff mood. Get ready, get locked in, because it's going to be a long run this season. I'm telling you right now.
They hate us because they ain't us.
Hate us because they ain't us.
Say what? All right, Schoolie, where are you going tonight? You going to the club?
No,
Going to water.
I'm not sure what casino we're going to, but we're going to.
You're going back to Fremont.
You're going to Bally Casino? Go to Bally.
He's going back to Fremont. He's a Fremont freak.
You know what? That was down there is when I did some of the best.
Go to the weed store, smoke a joint. You can walk down Fremont, smoke some weed.
I can walk down it and get a contact high. Just
that too.
Whatever you do, don't take 2 of the gummies.
Don't do the brown acid. The brown acid's bad.
Well, I already did. Somebody else had that story. Anyway, if you want to hear some stories from the Stache and myself, I uncovered a hour and 45-minute recording from 2010.
Holy cow.
Was actually when I deciphered it was. And we talked about a little bit everything, but we actually talk about Vinnick taking over. This was like Vinnick's brand new. We didn't know we were getting into with him. We're like, we've got all these hopes and dreams, and they all came true. So I'm going to put that out in the offseason.
You need to do a special like reaction. You and me sitting down, listening to that, and like reacting to that.
Oh, we have to, because just it by itself's brutal. It's pretty funny. Yeah. There's a rainstorm, and we're sitting outside
listening to it. I mean, just 2 guys just hanging out, no shirts on your back with the rainstorm,
cracking some ice houses. Thomas Schoolie, you're gonna go get some donuts. I thought you're not a donut man anymore.
That's not a Fremont Street.
Oh, Pink Box is amazing.
Yes, they were.
Yes, yeah.
Go do the Heart Attack Cafe. Do the challenge.
What's where?
The Heart Attack Cafe or whatever.
Oh, I'm not fat enough.
like a 2-pound burger. No, it's like a 5-pound burger.
But if you're 350 pounds, you get to eat for free.
Believe in yourself. You can do it. I believe in you.
I believe in me
That's
too.
that's the worst business decision ever. If you're 350 pounds, you can eat our enormous hamburger for free.
Right.
And they spank you in there.
All right, we know what Thomas Schooley will be there.
Right. Okay. Now I know you're definitely going to be there.
They had someone and they had a whip and they were spanking him and he was like, "Thank you." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. I gotta go."
Where was that in Nashville?
Yeah.
All right, well, best of luck there on the strip. I'm going
Best of luck getting home.
get my rest, and I'm gonna be on my own personal hell on I-4 tomorrow morning. So need my beauty sleep. But yeah, if anyone's going to the game, let me know. Should be there tomorrow night. Yeah, one more week until we're talking about our playoff matchup. And don't forget, every night we'll be live afterwards, whether we're at the game or not. We somehow find a way, much like the Jurassic Park dinosaurs did in Jurassic Park. Yes. So yeah, tell your friends. I'd love to see us hit 100 viewers at the same time. I think we've only got up to like 90s in the past during the playoffs. there's many mouths.
You see, it's a guy.
In the bush.
Yeah.
He was smoking a cigarette.
He's in the bush down there below. See what his hands are doing right there?
He was smoking a cigarette, and then I was taking a picture, and he goes, "Come here, get a better picture." And I was like, "Oh, he's gonna come fight me." So I took off.
Mhm.
Thomas Schooley gets beat up by Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, that's a guy. Yeah.
I'm aware.
Yeah, I'm not. It's Vegas. That's not surprising.
No.
All right.
I'm more surprised that you weren't in the bush. It wasn't more of a POV.
This has to end.
Yeah. Get out.
All right. It's been good. It's been real. Until next time, this has been We the Thunder. Don't forget to be the Thunder.
That's it?